Calling to order the special meeting for Diamond Lake School District 76. Roll call, please.
Armenta, Hale,
Here.
Hauptman,
Here.
Candela, Kwan, here, Lozada,
Here.
Sullivan.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And please also unmute. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to
to
the
the
flag
flag
of the
of the
United
States of America
and to the
and the
republic
republic
for which
it stands,
One
one
nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice
for all.
Thank you. Okay, we now open the floor to public comments on agenda items. Just a reminder, this is the levy hearing, so that is what this special meetings agenda covers. Do we have any public comments for the levy hearing? And again, I would invite you to type those into the chat box and we will read them into the meeting. And I'll just give that a minute and let Mr. Rogers get ready for his presentation. Okay, it looks like we do not have any public comments for the levy hearing. So I will turn the floor over to you, Eric.
All right, thank you very much. I tried this with Mr. Hanson, so let's make sure it works. I'm going to try to share my screen and just bring up the presentation here. How are we looking?
You can see it.
Okay, so you guys have seen this levy hearing before. It was attached to the tentative tax levy approval back on November 17th. So there hasn't really been many updates. I've just changed a couple of the assumptions around, changed some of my projections around, but it looks like we have about 70 people in the meeting. So thanks for everybody for coming out for the levy hearing. Very excited for it. I'm going to go through this part, fairly quick, but just for the public's sake, I want to give them an idea of what the levy process is and how the district came to some of its assumptions. So the tentative tax levy was presented on November 17th. We needed to present the levy for 20 days prior to the adoption of the levy, which took place tonight. It was in the December 4th Daily Herald, and today we are going to be voting for the adoption of the tax levy, and I'll be bringing in that for official filing with the county clerk's office before the last Tuesday of the month. So the district, as a reminder, is held to the Property Tax Limitation Act, which is CPI plus any new property. So CPI for the 2020 levy is 2.3%. You can see we just have the general formulas as far as how property tax revenue is calculated. But just to give you an idea, the history of CPI, there's been an up and down cycle, but thankfully the last few years it's stabilized. We've got to see some pretty stable 2% growth over the last few years, and this is the highest it's been since 2012 at 2.3%. Just historical data about how the equalized assessed value is trended in the district. It's had some pretty substantial growth over the last few years and stabilized with the 2019 EAV. And it really has quite the roller coaster as far as what our limiting rate sees. It's traditionally an inverse relationship where as EAV goes up, the limiting rate drops. But it's been a little interesting cycle of growth that Diamond Lake has seen in the last few years where EAV has outgrown outstanding property growth. So when that happens, where CPI grows faster than the new property growth, our rate actually increases. So you can kind of see that in 2018 and now 2020, where we're only projecting about 0.2% growth on existing property, whereas CPI is 2.3%. So unfortunately, the rate is still, maintaining a little bit more on our historical averages instead of decreasing. District still relies, as many in Illinois, on property tax revenue. We see around 73%. And this is the important slide as far as what we're proposing and why we're proposing this. So the first two columns are the 2018 and 2019 extension, and you can see that that's our actual realized revenue from property taxes. Whereas this year, we're still going to be proposing a balloon levy. All of you are familiar with that term and what the district proposes for it, but it's the process of asking for more money than we generally expect to realize. And I explain that a little bit more in the next slide, which is available to the public. But the yellow column there is what we expect as our best guess levy. So you can overall, it equates to about a 2.37% growth for the 2020 levy compared to the 2019. And I'll show you a little graph that kind of shows that a little bit more of a summarized format. But what the board is going to be voting on would be the blue column, and that is what our balloon levy is. So traditionally, we're about a 15 to 20% increase over what we actually expect to receive. And that's what we present to the county clerk, where they'll take that, they'll get our actual equalized assessed value data for the district and the county, and then they'll tell us what we're actually able to realize in terms of revenue. So this slide will explain a little bit more about the balloon levy for anybody in the public that is interested about why we do that. And I do go through some frequently asked questions, so I don't mean just to skip over this, but I've updated this from previous years, talks about why, the district's standing with lowering and raising levy, and why your home may go up faster or lower than CPI. But I just wanted to show you another chart that I believe just kind of captures, and this is available in the board packet as well, just kind of where the district is at this year. So over the past year, we've seen some pretty decent growth, anywhere from 4%, 2% over the last few years of equalized assessed value. This year, it's really only a 0.45% growth is what we're projecting. And that's in part because of a very small new construction amount. So this is the lowest it's been at least over the last decade in terms of new construction. And the growth of existing property is pretty stagnant. So
Eric?
we're only projecting. Yeah, I think somebody may have their microphone on. So yeah, really less than $1 million of growth in existing property, which kind of just shows a little bit more of a stagnant growth. And that 0.2% that I mentioned is lower than CPI, which is why we're seeing our tax rate kind of increase slightly. So overall, we're just expecting just about a 2.37% increase over the prior year's levy. And that's the combination of CPI of 2.3 plus a little bit of the new construction amount. So kind of a condensed levy presentation. I try to keep it short, but I want to give an opportunity for anybody to ask any questions they might have, about our levy. But otherwise, we'd be closing this levy hearing, and we'll reopen to vote on in open session.
I do not have any questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Thank you so much for that presentation. As always, the information is very useful, and I think you explain it really well. I'm now going to move on and open the floor to public comments and petitions on non-agenda items for the levy hearing. Do we have any public comments or petitions on non-agenda items? Again, feel free to type those in the chat box, and we will read them into the meeting. And I'll give that a second, and then we will adjourn and then open our regular business meeting for this evening. Okay, it does not look like we have any comments. So could I get a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Lozada,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Armenta, Hale,
Yes.
Outman,
Yes.
Candela, Kwan, yes.
Okay, that concludes our special meeting, and I will now call to order the combined meeting for District 76. Margaret, would you mind taking the roll call again, please?
Yes, just give me 1 second to open up the next meeting.
I know, I'm sorry.
Okay, Armenta, Hale,
Here.
Helpman. Helpman,
Here.
Candela, Quan, here, Lozada,
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Okay, we now open the floor to public comments on agenda items. Do we have any public comments on our combined meeting agenda this evening? I will give that a second. And then, of course, if we have any comments, we'll read them into the meeting. Okay, it does not look like we have any comments. I know we have a dial-in listener. Eric, I just want to confirm with you that we don't have any comments.
There are no public comments.
Okay, then we will move on to presentations.
All right, thank you. This evening we have one presentation, and that is a recognition of our Diamond Award. Mr. Hansen, that's for board discussion.
I apologize.
No worries. So I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Preble, principal of West Oak Intermediate School, who will then introduce his staff who's in attendance this evening, and then recognize Miss Jenny Landite for a Diamond Award. So Mr. Preble.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma Lewis. Good evening, everybody. It is my pleasure to lead off this presentation tonight by introducing some members of the West Oak Intermediate Special Education Team, and they are here tonight to honor Jenny with one of our Diamond Awards for her help with us, and I will let them explain it to you. But tonight we're going to have Laura Rogers, Casey Littall, and Sean Hoyer. All three members are part of our special education team, and I believe Mrs. Rogers, you are going to lead it off, so I will pass the baton to you.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Laura Rogers, and on behalf of Casey Littell and Sean Hoyer, we would like to take a few minutes of your time to recognize the accomplishments of one of our peers. Jenny Landite is a speech pathologist at Diamond Lake School. Jenny's commitment to serving students and supporting staff extends throughout the district. We are thankful to the board for honoring her and recognizing how professionals like Jenny impact each child on each day in District 76.
Hi, I'm Casey Littell, and we recommended Jenny for this award because of her recent efforts with a certain student at Weiss, which highlights the significant impact she has throughout the district. This fall, one of my students attended the Facilitated Distance Learning Academy, or known as the FDLA. His significant special education needs required a predictable learning environment. However, this uncertainty and inconsistency in a virtual learning environment was not supportive to meet his needs. As a special education team, we didn't get the opportunity to see him in a classroom setting and wanted to seek out those who have seen him in that environment for the support that worked well for him to keep some consistency with the new school and changes in the FDLA. We reached out to Jenny Landite as she was his speech and language pathologist for the past several years. She went above and beyond a request for a brief phone consultation. She met with the student at school for several hours, providing real-time feedback to him and peer coaching to the other staff that supported him. She shared several pages of insights and teaching strategies, which have been an invaluable resource to our team.
In learning more about Mrs. Landite, we found her efforts with our student were not an isolated incident. She has earned a reputation for going above and beyond to be helpful to other SLPs in the district, as well as supporting teachers and other professionals. She is sought after as a resource to her peers, providing tools that her experience has highlighted as best practice with previous students. Ms. Landite effortlessly demonstrates superior teaching strategies, adept understanding of learning challenges, innovative instructional responses, and exemplary character. The selfless contributions of Ms. Landite in support of a student and her fellow professional peers reflect great credit upon herself as a professional and colleague. We thank you for your recognition of her service and highlighting her excellence to the rest of the district.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Jenny.
Whew, thank you. That was so kind. Thank you all so much for your kind words. That was really nice to hear. And I love working with all of you. I'm so fortunate to work with such dedicated and passionate colleagues.
Well, we're honored to have you as part of our team and our staff. And I just want to make a point to the board, because I know the administrators know this and the staff know this, but Jenny actually is a teacher at Diamond Lake. And so for her to be recognized by colleagues at a different building knows that she, of course, went above and beyond, made it a tremendous impact, not only on them, but on our students and their families. So thank you again, Jenny. We appreciate it. And Jenny is also a District 76 resident who has a child in kindergarten. So she is doubly committed. So thank you again, Jenny. And thank you, Laura and Casey and Sean, for attending tonight and giving such a wonderful presentation of Jenny and her accomplishments.
Thank you all. Congratulations, Jenny.
Now, if you would like, you all may leave and join the participants, so you don't have to be on camera, and you can go put on some comfy clothes and maybe grab something fun to drink. Have a good night. Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Okay. Well, on that happy note, we will move on to our business agenda for the evening. The first item on the business agenda evening, which is up for action, is the omnibus vote agenda. Items under the omnibus vote agenda are considered routine and or non-controversial and will be approved by one motion. If anyone, board member, staff, administrator, or citizen wishes to have a separate vote on any item or items, that item or items will be pulled from the omnibus vote agenda and voted on separately. Be it resolved that the Diamond Lake 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the omnibus vote agenda items A through E as listed. May I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
Lozada,
Yes.
Hauptman, Armenta, Hale,
Yes.
Candela, Kwan, yes, Sullivan.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the first reading of Press Issue 106. So we will take action on that item at the next board meeting. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments or discussion they would like to have. No. Okay, so like I said, we will be voting on this at the next meeting. If in the interim there's any questions or comments, we can certainly discuss that prior to voting at our January meeting. The next item on the agenda up for action is approving the tax levy. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the adoption of the Truth in Taxation Resolution, the 2020 tax levy in the amounts for which the total is $15,508,760. And I'm going to read out the amounts separately. The Education Fund, $11,500,000. The O&M Fund, $1,500,000. The Transportation Fund, $1,100,000. The Working Cash Fund, $75,000. The IMRF Fund, $250,000. The Social Security Fund, $250,000. Fire Prevention and Safety Fund, $1,000. Tort Immunity Fund, $65,000. Special Education Fund, $750,000. And CEDAL IMRF, $17,760. The resolution for the working cash levy, oh, I just read all of that. Hold on. I apologize. It's hard for me to scroll in board book, but I believe That is all for the motion. So may I have a motion to approve that adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Lozada,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Armenta, Hale,
Yes.
Houtman. I can't hear John, but I'm assuming.
Could you hear him then?
Houtman?
Yes.
Yes, okay. There's a little bit of feedback, so I'm not sure if it's mine or, do you hear that, or is it just me? You do? Okay. Kwan, yes. Candela, Kwan, yes.
Okay. Thank you. And we have one last item on the business agenda that is also for action, and that is personnel. Be it resolved, the Diamond Lake 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the personnel items as depicted on the agenda. We have 2 new hires. May I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Lozada,
Yes.
Armenta, Hale,
Yes.
Houtman, Candela, Kwan, yes.
Okay, that concludes the business agenda. We will now move on to board discussion. And Bhavna, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay, thank you, Joy. Mr. Hanson, can I ask you to please share that presentation?
And
Thank you.
go on. Okay.
All right, on the agenda, it's listed as a second trimester tentative planning update, and that's what this is up until this point, is giving you some insight as to what the district leadership team has been working on and meeting with building leadership teams. Each principal has been. So this is kind of a compilation of our work and giving you an update of where we are as when we come back from winter break. So in our next slide, you're going to see our current status right now. I'm not able to, hold on just a second. There we go. I'm sorry. I had to minimize who was talking so I could see the full screen. Right now, we are in executive order for the governor's direction in Tier 3 mitigation of the Phase 4 of Restore Illinois plan, which just basically means that more restrictions are put into place in public places, and are full of information is available on our website. So based on that information on the executive order, we've decided to remain in a remote learning platform, which is, as we call it, our Distance Learning Academy, our DLA for students and staff until the executive order is lifted. So myself, Dr. Duraka, and Mr. Rogers have met with all staff who may need medical health and or childcare accommodations. So about a month ago, we surveyed all staff and asked them if, we were to return to in-person learning, who would feel comfortable coming back, who would need some healthcare or personal accommodations, and or who may need some childcare accommodations. So based on that survey feedback that we got, and we had 100% participation from all staff, we met with each staff individually, and we had a group meeting with one group of staff and talked about specific plans or accommodations as far as what they may need when we return to an in-person learning model, or when we ask them to come back into the district. So we are following up with each individual, and we will be communicating with them as to how we will accommodate them as they indicated. So based on that information, we are working with principals right now to determine what the staffing plans are for the scenarios. And when we talk about both scenarios, we are saying whether we stay remote in the Distance Learning Academy, whether we do a portion of that back in person for the in-person learning, or a combination of both if needed, based on parent survey data. As we will continue to do, and what we've done since the beginning of this pandemic, is follow state and local guidance and data and make our decisions based on that data. We all know, as I provide you updates on a regular basis, this is a dynamic and rapidly changing situation. So we are just keeping up with it. So right now, this is a great plan for what we are planning for after we come back in January. But as we know, things could change in the next 2.5 weeks, and we may have to alter our plans and change information and direction. But as always, we will continue to communicate with all of our stakeholders. So on the next slide, you'll see that our second trimester update for January 2021 is based on that tier 3 mitigation, as we indicated earlier with the executive order. From January 4th, which is the first Monday that we return, through January 29th, which is the last Friday in January, we will continue with remote learning, which is the D76 Distance Learning Academy, or DLA, as we'll be referring to, for all students and staff. And we feel like this will be the best for consistency and continuity of our teaching and learning, all of the programs that we have in place, our schedules and expectations. Now, specific schedules may change as principals are working with their staff, but we will still continue to remain in a distance learning academy. We also have currently, and have since the very beginning, staff continue to come in and work voluntarily in the schools and districts, and that'll continue throughout January as well. Right now, January 4th is listed as a late start date. So we are going to change that, and we're asking the board to approve the early release day for students. So that way then staff have the afternoon to work and plan together as teams, and also as building teams on what January work may look like. On January 18th, which is a Monday, is Dr. Martin Luther King Day. So there is no school for students and staff. And then on January 19th, which is a Tuesday, we are going to take that day as a remote learning planning day. So there'll be no school for students, but yet staff will be in session for professional development and meetings looking ahead for the next few weeks. At that time is also our next board meeting. So we'll be able to give you a status update if there are any local or state changes to the information that we've received. So we'll update our plan as we go along and provide you with an update. Our goal is, and again, this is a moving target, is February 1st, which is the first Monday in February, is wherever we are with local or state guidance, that we want to stay in that platform until spring break, which is about 7 weeks from that date. So execute the remainder of the second trimester learning platforms until spring break. And we found, based on feedback just of what we did earlier this year from fall to winter break, by saying we were going to stay remote and not going back and forth with information or learning platforms, it really helped our students, it helped our staff, and it helped our families with, continuity, scheduling, and planning. So whatever that looks like, whether that is a distance learning academy and in-person learning, or we just stay with the distance learning academy, wherever we are, it is our goal, again, and this could be changing, that on February 1st, we're able to make that decision for the remainder of the second trimester. That being said, the next slide, we're going to talk about next steps. So once the governor lifts the executive order of tier 3 mitigation, and as we all know, this date has not yet been determined, we are hoping that approximately 1 week after, staff will be provided communication and details to work from school or the district if and when it is safe to do so. And as I said on the first slide, Dr. Draka, Mr. Rogers, and myself have met with all staff who have requested or need accommodations, whether it's for health, personal reason, childcare, and we are working with those individuals, and we will provide those accommodations as best to our ability, whether it's a medical or health related accommodation, or try to provide childcare for school-age children within our district. Then approximately 2 weeks after staff are back in the building without students, we are going to resume our facilitated distance learning academy that we had run for the first 12 weeks or so for September and October and part of November. And that is when students come in and are able to have remote learning in a facilitated supervised environment. So we're going to try to resume that if and when it is safe to do so. And then once the executive order is lifted, within those 2 weeks, we will also send out another parent survey and ask them for a declaration of intent for either distance learning academy or an in-person learning. So again, resend that survey, but make it more of a declaration as opposed to where are you right now as a status update. I think those two bottom bullet points are really important to know that throughout this whole process, staff will continue to work with principals and building leadership teams to plan for school-specific schedules, operations, and logistics. And that includes academic schedules, as well as safety precautions and guidelines, and any building specifics, entering, exiting, transitioning of students within the day. So they'll be working specifically with their principals on that, as they have been doing for the past several weeks. And then also, I think for families who don't feel comfortable sending their students back for in-person learning, we will continue to provide a remote learning option for the remainder of the school year for the families that don't feel comfortable sending their students back. So in conclusion, I think what we need to continue to consider, next slide, please, Mr. Hansen, is we will continue to prioritize safety, health, and well-being. And that means wearing masks, keeping our social distance, making sure that everything is cleaned and sanitized, just as we have been from the very beginning. Continue to provide robust, relevant, and rigorous teaching and learning programs as we have done in the fall, based on feedback from last spring. And I know principals are working with their teachers right now on creating those schedules that mimic the actual school day at Diamond Lake, as well as at West Oak Intermediate. Again, maintain safe, clean, and sanitized facilities. Make our decisions based on data, whether that's local data, state data, or even our zip codes data. Finalize our staffing plans based on the feedback that we've gotten from the staff surveys, meetings that we've had with individual as well as groups of teachers, and working with principals. And then, like I said, principals will continue working with their building leadership teams on specific building level and school level and grade level transition plans. And then, as we've done throughout the entire process, continue to communicate in a transparent and timely manner. So that is the end of our presentation for tonight, and it's up for board discussion. So we'd like to get the board's feedback on anything that you would like to see or change or update as we work ahead in January, and then also provide you with the next update on January 19th.
I have a couple of questions. If we can go to the second trimester January slide. First question is, what are the current numbers for number of DLA students, number of in-person students? What do those numbers look like?
So about 3 weeks ago, we sent a survey out, and this was right when we were going into, or right when the governor had shared that we were going into tier 3 mitigation. And so we had about 40% of those surveys returned. And of those 40%, we had 60% remaining of those families said that they would remain in distance learning, and 40% that they would come back for in-person learning. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but we will be able to provide those for you. But those percentages I do recall.
So you anticipate I think what you're saying is you anticipate an increase in in-person learning in January. Is that true?
I would have
estimate it.
That's why we're kind of pausing. Our numbers have been pretty consistent, whether it's 50-50 or 60-40, but I think we might increase just a little bit if those tier 3 mitigations are lifted.
Okay. And then as I read through this, let me know if I misunderstood anything. So in essence, we're going to stay with the same offerings, DLA and in-person, through the end of January 29th. And then as of February 1st, we're going to continue to offer both, or are you saying that at that point we'll go strictly distance learning? I just want to clarify that.
It's actually flipped. So we are going to stay remote, which is exactly where we are right now until January 29th.
Okay, 100% remote?
100% remote.
Okay, got it.
And then if and when, once the governor lifts that tier 3 mitigation, then we will, if you go, Mr. Hansen, can you go to the next slide? Then this is what will happen. So we'll start bringing staff back, and then we will resume that facilitated distance learning when possible, and then also send out a parent survey based on the current local guidelines and the state guidelines.
That's anticipating a decision made by the governor. Otherwise, if no decision is made, we would continue with 100% distance learning?
And then we would continue to watch our local data, because right
Okay.
now, even with the
Okay.
governor's executive order, he is
Okay.
giving schools local control.
Okay, good, good. And so at any point in time, even come, middle of February, even the beginning of March, if the governor decides that we can relax, then at that point, you just need that 2-week window to be able to convert and either offer a balance or be able to accommodate in-person learning. Is that correct?
That's our goal. That's our goal,
Okay,
to
sure.
give a couple of weeks, but I'm sure we'll work with, Mr. Rogers will work with principals as far as, what transportation might be needed, what food services, things like that. So
Sure.
however long it takes us to get the logistics in place.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification.
Quick question. Do we have an idea? I mean, I think the FDLA, fabulous program. Do we have, and certainly understand why we had to put it on pause when we did. Do we have any idea of what happened to those kids who were in the program and had to and were no longer able to come in? Did the village of Mundelein or Vernon Hills or unincorporated Lake County step in and do anything, or do we have any idea of if there were any other accommodations made for them?
Well, I know our principals. Sorry, I hear an echo.
Can everyone else just mute?
Thank you. I know our principals and our teachers are working really closely with those students, and they monitor not only their progress, but all students' progress. So if any of the principals would like to just comment on Mr. Hauptman's question as far as specific to those students, as well as Mr. Dole, because I know he has some students in that program as well. So if anybody would like to comment on how you've kind of monitored how those students are doing.
Sure, I can speak first. Having the students was actually in the building was very beneficial for building a lot of good relationships with just having them here, that consistency, and that has benefited them. I know they would rather be in the building and with us. We'd rather have them as well, but that was very advantageous because we were able to connect them with the teachers, even if they're online, much easier. Some of the learning associates that some of those students work with, they're able to now work with online, and they've built relationships. Excuse me. So that's been probably the most helpful aspect of it, and been encouraging. And also we'd be able to build, it was kind of a small community that we had built. So the parents as well, we had really good connections with them. And so the parents have done a nice job of communicating with us if something's not working with a Chromebook, or if the student may be struggling to get online for the morning or whatever it is. So that's been, it's been a good partnership, but I know that those families really want their students back.
Yeah, I would almost completely echo what Mr. Peterson was saying, or excuse me, Mr. Cunningham was saying, excuse me, with the FDLA that was run out of West Oak campus. It was very mirrored, between the two schools, as they were, in the same general location. We were utilizing some of the same staff to work with them. So it's been one of those things where we were able to build those relationships and keep tabs on them and, help as much as we can. They are back home, obviously. To my knowledge, I don't know that any of the West Oak intermediate students were able to join any other facility in the area. I believe they are all at home at this point.
At Diamond Lake School, it's very similar. Our teachers are definitely the first line with keeping tabs on the students. They do a fantastic job. They care very much about where their students are and how they're doing. They reach out to Daisy Carrera if there are any questions or concerns. I agree with Kurt in terms of, I'm not sure if they have been able to get any additional programming, because I think all the programs in the area basically had the same circumstance that we did. But our students are active and online and are definitely looking forward to when they can return to the building.
That's great news. Fabulous program. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to comment and thank you all for the time you spent on putting this together. And I also wanted to comment on, I think the board as a whole appreciates the fact that you're constantly looking at the health data and you're prioritizing the safety of our staff and our students. I know that in looking at a lot of the other local plans, many of them are just setting a date to start and aren't looking at lifting the tier 3 mitigations and aren't looking at, kind of phasing people into the building to get acclimated and adjusted to obviously, wearing a mask is different at work, wearing a mask is different for the kids at school. So I just wanted to thank you for giving that priority and in thoughtful consideration.
Thank you.
I think we have some questions from staff online. I don't know if Bhavna, you wanted to address those separately or how you'd like to proceed there.
I see two, and I see one. If you do see any more, Eric, am I missing it? Or hold on. Sorry, I see them. Yes, so what I will do is I will answer these questions separately. And I know that Ms. Bischoff is on the line. So if you could please just take note of those questions, and then I will respond to everybody individually.
Bhavna, can we get more information on what the current data is for, specific to our zip code or this area, and what that number needs to hit in order for us to actually make this possible in terms of having the kids return back to school? Do you have those figures right now?
I don't have the figures right now. I'm happy to share them with you. We're on a call every week with Lake County Health Department, so they provide them for us as far as like what their recommendations are. But again, because the governor hasn't given specific guidelines or control to say, all right, here's what their number needs to be when students can come back or when teachers can come back, it's based totally on our local decision and what our community needs. And that's the caveat of every single direction that it gives. Even from the Lake County Department of Public Health, when we end that call, the director's comments are always like, here's where we're at. This is, kind of the red zone, the danger zone, safe zone. But again, it's your call, superintendents, for what your community needs.
I guess maybe specifically, you must have a number or some range of numbers that you have in mind that you'd be comfortable with. If we were to hit those targets, that you would feel comfortable allowing kids to return. I think if we had more information on that, that'd be helpful to know.
Okay.
I mean, especially because as you said, the landscape is changing so fast every day. And the data is changing rapidly. So I think to get more information on that and where we want to be in terms of the numbers in order to allow this to happen, I think that'd be helpful.
Okay. I can provide those for you.
And then one more question that I have, when you survey parents, so say we are able to open and you foresee that happening and you survey parents to kind of get their final decision, do you expect to have, or what type of information do you expect to have available for parents? So, so say like I have a child in the lower grades and it's important for me to have my child be in school with his or her homeroom teacher versus like a different teacher. Maybe my homeroom teacher isn't returning. Will that kind of information be available before you survey parents to ask for their decisions?
I think we will definitely put that information out, but I can't tell you who that teacher will be yet. It will be based on the information and the feedback that we get back from parents. But we will definitely put that caveat out there that if you choose to come back or if you choose to go to in-person, you may or may not be with your same peers or teacher.
Right. I understand that that's definitely a possibility. I think a lot of parents would want to know, right, as much information as possible before making that decision. So
of course. And we'll put that, we will provide as much information as we can. And that's why we need the time for when the teachers come back. We're going to need 2 to 3 weeks to plan, send out that survey, collect that data, determine who's coming back, how many are coming back, where are they going, and then kind of match them up with teachers. So that's why we need that time in between.
Right.
Okay, does anyone have any more questions? No, I'm not seeing any. Okay, then we will move on from board discussion. We do not have any freedom of information requests this evening. We have a couple different notices and communications. Bhavna, I don't know if there's anything you want to highlight there.
Okay, I'm just flipping through.
Sure.
Sorry. Notices and communications. Sorry, so we just provided a CDAL update. I believe it was from the last governing board meeting, and then our December Diamond Edge that just went out yesterday. So you'll see some of the highlights that were happening in the district from last month. So those are just for your review.
Okay, great. Now we move on to public comments and petition on non-agenda items. So if we have any public comments or petitions, please enter them now. I know we had some questions during the presentation. Maybe you just want to read those as comments. Or I can read them as comments. And if anyone else has any public comments, feel free to add them. We have, and I know that with the questions that were asked, like Bhavna said, she will address those. We have, considering the governor is allowing schools to have some control, is it possible the district will have students or staff return to the building even if tier 3 isn't lifted by the governor? Then I have, hello, my name is Polly Kluber, as a member of the District 76 Union. My question is, will there be a transition to a blended model, or will we transition directly to in-person learning once phase 3 mitigation is lifted? Then we have, once families make a declaration of intent to return in-person learning or stay in distance learning, will they be able to change their minds, or will that choice continue until the end of the school year? Then we have, my name is Barbara Buck. I'm a second grade teacher and vice president of the Diamond Lake School District 76 Teachers Association. All families are being offered the opportunity to have their children remain in a fully remote, safe distance learning situation while at home for the remainder of the academic year without restrictions if so desired. It appears as though the same option hasn't been offered to all district employees, and this is concerning for everyone, especially so for those with documented medical concerns that likely place them at high risk of having significant complications and or negative outcomes should they contract COVID-19. Wouldn't it be prudent to choose to do the right thing to protect everyone within the District 76 community? Then we have, how will the integrity and consistency of student learning and teacher delivery be maintained? And some families need to remain remote while others may be in person. Then I have Mundelein High School has COVID metrics on their website for our zip code. Then I have, so what exactly are the metrics being used for the district? Will there be an up-to-date district dashboard of data that shows this information? And then we have a question, Jessica Rosales, District 76 Union member, is there going to be a limit to the number of FDLA students? One more. On what date can teachers expect to receive a comprehensive plan in written form containing specific details, including number of students in class, separation of classes for recess, lunch, for all aspects that affect teachers for return to in-person or hybrid learning? Trying to see if there's any more. Like I mentioned, all of those, Bhavna's going to respond to those questions separately. I am not seeing, okay, here. With regards to the cleaning schedule, is the district adequately staffed to accomplish the necessary protocols? What accountability measures will be in place? Normally we don't answer these, but I will say that I think some of these questions are answered in the roadmap that was published at the beginning of the year, especially with regards to cleaning. And that's on the website in case you want to refer back to that or haven't seen that before. I believe that is all the comments. Does anyone see any I missed?
I just answered one earlier that came up that said, will facilitated distance learning be available before that 2/1 date? And we had just indicated that we hope to provide it as soon as the governor lifts the tier 3 mitigation, probably a week or two after, once we can determine a schedule and staff.
Okay. Okay, that appears to be all of the public comments this evening. So we will move on to others. We have the transportation amendment.
Mr. Rogers, do you want to just speak to your two other items that you have attached, please?
Yeah, thank you. So I wrote a memo just briefly explaining the transportation amendment. So we've been working on this since really the beginning of the year, and it's been going back and forth with Lakeside. It just hasn't fully, it hasn't been in a full complete form, but the numbers and the terms are the exact same as how we finished the last year. So really the agreement that we're presenting tonight is, in conjunction with District 75 and 120, that the district would be responsible for 35% of the cost of the regular transportation routes and 100% of the cost of the special education routes. It averages to, I think, just about 42% or something like that. I think the exact figure, but those are the two percentages, and what that covers is 100% of the cost of the bus leases and nothing more. So it doesn't cover the cost of any their labor costs, any of the additional overhead. There's no revenue, no profit baked into that number. It's strictly the cost of the leases to Lakeside, and we felt that was a fair compromise. It's what many districts in Illinois are doing. Our agreement is more favorable than most that I've seen, but it's I believe it's the cost of doing business to partner with a company that has made a substantial investment with our 3 districts to provide transportation. So keep in mind the majority of these costs are recoupable based on the transportation claim. And the reason the special ed percentage is larger is because we get a much larger percentage of special ed reimbursement. So I think it's about 88% of special ed reimbursement, and we get about half of that for regular education. So that is what's being presented. If there's any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer.
And my only question is, are these both items for action?
Correct. So the IGA, that is the next item, that was presented 2 meetings ago, I believe. The transportation.
No, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. I'm just confused as to why they weren't part of the business agenda.
It's a great question. I think we just wanted to call it separately just because it is the transportation amendment hasn't been presented in a couple meetings. This is just really a continuation of it, but yes, it could have realistically been on that the business agenda. So sorry about the confusion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will take action then on the transportation amendment first, but before we do so, did anyone have any questions? Because I know I kind of cut that off. Okay, it doesn't look like it. Your memo was thorough. Then can I have, be it resolved, the Diamond Lake School District 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the fiscal year 21 amendment with Lakeside Transportation as presented. May I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
I'll second. Hauptman?
Yes.
Kwan? Yes. Armenta? Hale?
Yes.
Condella? Lozada?
Jose, you're muted.
Okay, I got the thumbs up. Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so moving on to the IGA for the Oak Terrace water system improvements.
Yeah, so this is just a continuation of the conversation we had a couple meetings ago, but I included the memo from Lake County. I thought that explained kind of their request. I've read through the agreement. I thought it was, it was pretty boilerplate agreement. They said we could obviously repropose any changes we see fit, but it's basically they are going to be responsible for the well. They're responsible for any repairs, the maintenance, the monitoring of the well house. The only thing we're responsible as a district is the cost of the actual water usage that we have. So it's no different than the existing well agreement that we had. The main benefit is we get some redundancies at West Oak, and in return of that, for that, residents in this area are also going to get more, an upgraded, more sustainable wells. It's kind of a double-edged sword. The only thing we got to give up is a little bit of our egress at the end of our parking lot there, which we don't use that for anything in particular.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Eric? No. Okay, then be it resolved, the Diamond Lake School District 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the intergovernmental agreement with Lake County regarding Oak Terrace well project as presented. May I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
Was that Sullivan? Okay, Lozada,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Armenta, Hale,
Yes.
Helpman, Candela, Kwan. Yes.
Okay, that concludes our agenda for this evening. I just wanted to thank you all for attending. And since I think this is our last time seeing each other virtually before break, I wanted to wish all of you attending and on the phone a very happy and healthy and safe holiday with your families. I know it's obviously a very different year, but I hope that you're able to do some celebrating and take some time off to relax. Thank you very much for all of your contributions this year. I know it's been really unprecedented, but we definitely appreciate, and I think I speak on behalf of the board and the community all the time, all of the administrators and staff and teachers have spent, making this the best year possible for our students despite the circumstances. So thank you very much. Have a very happy holiday. Have a happy new year.
Can I
And we
real
will
quick,
see. Yeah.
Abna, did you say we need to vote on the changing from a late start to an early release on January 4th?
If you can just give me, you don't necessarily need to vote. If you can just give me, any feedback, and I know there was no comments on it. So if that works well for you, we'll adjust the calendar. Thank you for catching that, Nicole.
I don't
Is
think
everybody
there's
okay with us changing that January 4th date from right now it's a late start date, and we'll change it in the calendar to an early release on the first Monday that we get back from winter break.
I think it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We will see you in January.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Don't we need to adjourn, Joy?
Oh yeah, that would be helpful. Sorry, I can't, this screen, I can't see half the stuff.
I know.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Sullivan, Lozada,
Yes.
Armenta, Hale,
Yes.
Helpman, Candela, Kwan. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.